Nation's Library Television Network.
Welcome to West Virginia Author. I'm your host, Gordon Simmons, and I have as my guest today photographer Steve Shaluta. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you.
You've done several books. Let's briefly talk about the ones you've done before and then get to the new one. You did a covered bridge book.
Last year we did a covered bridge book, the remaining 17 covered bridges in West Virginia, photos of those. And we also did a small book on state parks.
Actually, there's two state park books, aren't there?
No, there's just the one. Just
okay.
The one state park book, and so that was last year what
okay.
we did. And then Maureen Crockett. Well, yeah, there's the other book is Maureen Crockett's book. Yes.
Okay, so
and I provided the photos for
her.
that. Yeah, so those are the three books that came out last year.
And then you have a more recent book that's also in paperback.
Right. I just received it yesterday in the mail, the box of them. I don't even know. I guess it would be for sale right now. And it's called West Virginia Impressions, and it's put out by Far Country Press out in Montana. And Brian LeMasters, another state photographer, and I share credit in that book.
Well, let's talk about the new one, because this is by far your biggest, most ambitious product,
yes,
I think, so far in terms of published photography in book form. And Wonders of West Virginia, you did in collaboration with Jeannie Mosier, who we've had on here before, and pretty well known throughout the state in terms of writing. And this book is somewhat, if I'm not wrong, in the tradition of those books that Sonny Hyde sort of pioneered on West Virginia, with the nice big photography coffee table books that are really great for gifts, for one thing. But in this, your photography really gets a bigger showcase, not only because it's a bigger format, but there's a wide variety of content in this book. It's not just covered bridges or state park scenes, but all kinds of scenes from around the state. A lot of nature, a lot of city scenes.
Sure. Well, it's what I would say it would be the definitive book on West Virginia, which Sonny's book always was the definitive book. It covered the variety of West Virginia, the people, the activities, in addition to the scenery, which we have, and that's the kind of book I wanted to put out. Was more or less like Sonny's book, and it's been my goal since I became a professional photographer, even before when I was a serious amateur, is to have a large format coffee table book. And through the West Virginia Book Company and Courier Press, this was possible.
Well, it's a great ambitious goal, and you've achieved it, so that's a pretty nice thing. If you don't mind, we've actually got some stills from some of the shots in there.
Sure.
And if you could walk us through, give us some of the story and description of what we're looking at.
I'll do my
I'd like
best.
to look at some of those.
Okay.
This shot here.
The cardinals. This was actually taken out of my backyard, in my backyard, right out of the sliding glass door.
Oh, wow.
My neighbor feeds the birds, and it was just a heavy snow, and all these cardinals were sitting in the tree, and I just grabbed up my camera and put on telephoto lens and took just a few shots. And having the two males and the two females there together, it really is unusual for me anyway, and with the beautiful white background. So that's how that one was taken.
How about this?
Now this is a shot of the Canaan Valley deer, the standard deer that you see when you're driving along, and I'm leaning on the hood of my car when I took this.
Oh, wow.
You almost have to chase them off. But I haven't seen them for a few years, but used to. You could go down there and a couple 8-point bucks would always be there. Just beautiful shots. This one is taken in my home county, Taylor County, along, can't really remember the name of Berryburg Road. And it's just a beautiful fall scene. I just happened to be driving along down there. I'm always taking the back roads, and just saw this beautiful, beautiful colors taken on Berryburg Road. This is Bald Knob in Canaan Valley. There's several Bald Knobs. People get the Bald Knobs confused in the state when you talk about Bald Knob. There's one, that Cass Railroad goes to.
Right.
But this one is you can ride up the lift, which is Weiss Knob, and you can walk over to Bald Knob. And it's actually the edge of Dolly Sods. It's the western edge of Dolly Sods. If you walk 5 miles straight across there, you would be to the road on the Allegheny front that takes you into Dolly Sods. So.
That's pretty marvelous.
This is another happy accident. I stopped. There was a storm coming in, and I stopped to photograph this beautiful light on this barn in Barber County. and I get the camera set up on a tripod, and this rainbow forms.
Wow.
It's like somebody's looking out for me. So
So that was pure chance.
Yeah, and there's 2 rainbows in there.
I was wondering,
you can
is
see,
down the left corner, is there
yeah.
a shadow rainbow?
Right, it's a double rainbow, but it was
Probably
just a beautiful opportunity with the dark sky behind it because of the storm coming in. This is my little buddy out in the Cranberry Glades. A couple years ago, whenever you go to Cranberry Glades, you'd almost be assured of seeing a bear. And the mother would have cubs. And there were 2 little cubs actually playing out here in this cotton grass field out in the glades. And I was on the boardwalk, and the other cub is behind the ferns, you see there. And he just stood up and looked at me, and I popped off a few shots, and luckily got a really nice photo of it. I was very happy with it, very happy. Now this is my wedding chapel. I got married this is at Bear Rocks in Dolly Sods, and I was married there on Bear Rocks in September, which is pretty challenging to plan on going to Bear Rocks to be married in September. You never know what the weather could be, but it was nice. It turned out nice for us. But this is a sunrise on Bear Rocks, which I go to every chance I get. I just love that place, and so I was there just a few days ago. And this is the Blackwater Falls. It's from the Gentle Trail, the handicap access at Blackwater Falls, which is a great view. And I found out just recently they've redid the boardwalk when I was down on Blackwater Falls, and there's another walkway that goes down lower almost to the river.
From
they've
the boardwalk?
extended the boardwalk, so you even have better access to the falls.
Oh, that's great.
This was taken at the Blennerhassett Mansion at Blennerhassett Island State Park, and it's a slight time exposure with using a flash to give ghost image to the docets. They were doing a traditional dance, and by using a time exposure and the flash to freeze some of the image, but yet you get ghost image. It's what they call the ambient light. It picked up the ambient light, and it gives you a ghost image. This is the way I shoot a lot of my ghost shots. This is on the Greenbrier River, just a beautiful foggy morning on the Greenbrier River with this couple that was we actually had as models. I was doing a shoot for the Greenbrier County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we put them in the spot where we wanted them to get the photograph. Cass Railroad. This is I've always wanted to get a good night shot of Cass Railroad, and now that I'm shooting digital photography, it's much easier than ever. It used to be a challenge with film, although I did get some, but nothing like what I have with
more
digital.
Flexibility at night?
Well, you can see what you're getting. You know you've got the shot. With film, you'd take several shots and you weren't sure if it turned out quite right. But with digital, you watch and you can get your exposure just perfect before you finish. This is the Delta Queen and the PA Denny during the great steamboat race on the Canal River during the Sternwheel Regatta. And it's always a great time to go to the regatta. There's a photo around every bend.
Right.
And this is from Fort Hill, Charleston. From Fort Hill, with the interstate and the moon rising over the shot. A nice twilight shot. Actually got a picture of the state capitol at the same time with the moon coming over top of it. But it was a double exposure, so I could make the moon real big. I used a double exposure in the film camera to get that shot. And this is the Cherry River up near Richwood, right along Route 55. And I travel the back roads, drive slow, and just watch things. Jeannie Mosier calls me drive-by shooting, West Virginia drive-by shooting. That's what she calls my shots like that. She says we need to do a book on West Virginia drive-by shootings, everything Steve shot from the car window. But that particular shot was shot not from the car window, but right along the road there.
You get a lot of shots right out from the car, though, right off the road.
Sure, yeah, I really do, and it's amazing how many great shots you can get from the road in West Virginia. I mean, working for the State Tourism Department, I'm always on assignment, and I shoot for West Virginia Magazine, so I'm going here, going there. A lot of times I don't have time to pull off and take a three-hour hike, and I've gotten very good at driving the back roads and taking my time and finding shots that are not far off the road. I mean, it's I guess it's a talent in itself, just being able to see those shots.
See they're there.
Especially when you're driving 65, 70 miles an hour on the interstate and you see it and you slam on the brakes and pull over and back up and get your shot. which I have several we'll talk about here later about like that. This shot is, I've kind of taken on this project, this interest of photographing abandoned vehicles in West
This is
Virginia.
right off a road, right?
Right, yeah, this is right off the road. But there's a lot of farm vehicles out here on the farms, and they just have, I think, great character. I don't see them as junk cars or this and that. I see them as Americana and great character. And so I've been, as I track them down, I stop and photograph them. And of course, we'll probably not use many of them in tourism work, but for me, it's just a kind of a hobby of me. Every time I see one, I stop to photograph it. Of course, this is the beautiful Clay Center building.
More modern.
Yeah, wonderful, more modern. And I needed, we really needed that shot for the book, and I tried to get down there at sunset and catch the reflection.
How did you get that sort of perspective to it? Because it has.
Well, I have very wide-angle lenses,
okay.
And so I used wide-angle lenses. And sometimes you can, with wide-angle lenses nowadays on digital, you get what they call a keystone effect, where your buildings or pyramid effect will start turning in like this, and but with digital, I can go in and I can correct that keystone effect, that perspective.
So you still get the sense of the size and proportion.
Sure, right. Here it is at Cranberry Glades, excuse me, in the fall. Just a beautiful place. I was just up there last week in the fall, and it's just a great spot just to go and walk around the boardwalk. And ever since I've been seeing the bear up there, I always have to stop and make a walk around there just in case I see another bear. Hoping to see that elusive mountain lion that's not supposed to be here. Yeah. This is the very, very close-up of the daylily, the stamens on a daylily. And this actually probably could be one of the oldest shots in the book. I had just became a photographer. So this is probably around 1978 or 79.
Oh, wow.
This photo was taken. And this is the Devil Ann's Hatfield Monument at the graveyard down in Mingo County. I'm not sure what the town is exactly, but we really need to preserve that history, and we wanted to be sure we had history in the book. Jeannie was very instrumental on what to choose for the book. We sat down and haggled back and forth what images we wanted for the book, and there were certain images Jeannie really wanted in there for the history or for the interest.
You get the right mix.
And I trust Jeannie's judgment, so we certainly had those kind of images. This is called Douglas Falls. It's on the North Fork of the Blackwater River, which is it's not hard to get to. You can actually drive right to it, and then you have to walk down over a hill for about 100 feet or so, but not too many people know about it. In the book Blackwater Chronicles that Port Crayon did.
Oh, right. Early explorations
right.
of West Virginia.
He mentions this falls. He talks about this falls
really?
Quite a bit, and so.
But it's not well known by tourists, or.
No, it's not. It's really not. But it's a great little waterfall, and I was just down there again this fall taking some more photos to it. It's not easiest to get to, but it's still it's not like you have to walk a long way to get to it. And this is Droop Mountain. Of course, when I was doing the state park book, I wanted to get a really interesting shot of the tower at Droop Mountain, and what could be more interesting to walk up there and have this wonderful inversion that's happening below you.
Wow. So that's fairly high up. But
Yes.
Is that a fire tower, or is that just an observation tower?
It's an observation tower. Yeah, okay. It's not a fire tower, and it was built during the CCC days originally, and then it fell into disrepair, and then Mike Smith, the superintendent up there, he tore it down and restored it to almost exactly the way it was. It's just wonderful. He's a great historian, Mike is, so he was the one who restored it as it was. And these are taken in my backyard, and they're Dutchman's breeches, and of course I love wildflowers. I used to be an amateur botanist. I had a lot of friends who were very serious botanists, and we go around looking for the state orchids.
Well, nature photography is something you like a lot.
Oh yeah, nature photography is my love.
Yeah, it shows up really well in this book.
Thank you. This was another stroke of luck. It's a road that goes out to the Canaan Wildlife Refuge, and there again, I just drive the back roads, early morning light, get up early, stay late, waiting for good light, and fog is always wonderful. And this young lady walking her 3 dogs out there, and I see this from a distance. I've shot this with a long telephoto to compress the trees so everything looks nice and compressed, and it was just a stroke of luck here. I had this wonderful, beautiful side light coming in on her with the fog, and or walking her 3 dogs in the morning. It's just a real stroke of luck. And this was the East Huntington Bridge. I actually had a postcard company that contacted me, and they were wanting certain shots and wanted to know if I would go get certain things for them. And so I went over to the East Huntington Bridge, and I'd never photographed it before. And my boss with the tourism and the other photographer, David Fatella, lives there, and he put me on the right location and turned me loose, and I just was lucky enough to get a great shot of it. And this is a barn on Edray Road in Pocahontas County. And you'll see this barn. I think every photographer who's serious has photographed this barn at one time or other during any season or all seasons. It's just a beautiful scene.
Great scenic barn.
Yes, it is. And this is between the first falls of Hills Creek and the second falls, the middle falls of Hills Creek. This is Hills Creek, and here again I was doing some work for the Pocahontas County Tourism Commission. And we put a fisherman out there. As you know, it's a long time exposure. I mean, we're talking a 10-second exposure, or the water wouldn't be milky like that.
Right.
So the fisherman is sitting very still for me,
a long time.
because if he was actually fishing, he would be blurry. And here's one of my favorite shots. It really is. I took this in 1986. I was zipping somewhere up in the mountains on I-79, doing 65, 70 miles an hour, and it was one of those foggy mornings, and this was just past the Flatwood exit. I just left the Flatwood exit, got up on top of the hill, and I looked over and saw this beautiful view, slammed on the brakes, get out, put on lenses. At that time I was shooting film, and I had a state camera with film, and I had my camera with film, so I'm shooting with the state camera, and I put on my camera, and I'm shooting some for me, and I get this just wonderful shot, and I have never ever seen this happen again up there. I mean, I've seen fog, but not in this such a beautiful configuration as it is here.
Well, and if it was that year, the topography's probably changed a little bit.
Yeah, it's been, what, almost 20 years ago or so. Yeah, I'm sure the trees have grown and things have changed, and there may be houses over there. I really don't pay much attention to it anymore. Another wonderful foggy morning up in Pocahontas County on, I think this is Back Mountain Road, or Lynn something Road. Just a wonderful little old barn with the fog. Here again, Americana in West Virginia, which we have so much of. Just beautiful, sparkly sun coming through the fog near Grandview.
That's nearly supernatural. That's
yeah, and it really made you feel like that. It was almost a mystical feeling, because it was just everywhere. It was all around you. It's just this sparkly light coming through the trees, and you really can't capture it as much as you see, or at least I can't, on film. People think I have, but it's not as beautiful as I saw it. Oh yeah.
In real life.
And this shot I love. This here again, I was doing some work for the Pocahontas County Tourism Commission, and Gail Price, who was the CVB director at the time, she knew this farmer who took us in the back of his truck up mountain to the top of his farm to get this view, and I thought we were going to roll over. I thought we were going to roll out of the back of that truck, and it was so bad we wouldn't come down. We walked down off the mountain because it was just so steep.
Well, you get a perspective here, because you can see all these houses down in the foreground.
It's just a wonderful perspective of how big that telescope is, because of having the houses down there in Greenbank in front of you. I really liked this view. I loved it. To go back and get it again. We went up there for a sunset. The sunset never really happened, but I always have, a contingency plan. I have filters, graduated filters, which have a little color in the top of them, but yet they don't in the bottom, and I can, make a little more color in the sky than is there.
And
so that's what
ordinarily.
And that's what I did there.
Well, the whole combination of between nature and city shots and people and just objects, found things in West Virginia, that is a hard choice, I would imagine, to make. Which shot here, which shot there.
It is a very hard choice, especially when you're doing a book. I mean, I had literally thousands of images to choose from. I narrowed it down for Jeannie and the publisher. I narrowed it down to 1,000 images.
Wow.
And that was a struggle to narrow it down to 1,000 images. Then we had to narrow those down. I let them, make their picks, and then they let me go back and pick a few, and then we made some changes, and it was very difficult. And it's lucky, if it would have been me, I would just put pure nature in the book. That's the way I am. But Jim Clark has one out right now that's
the Allegheny Highland book. Yeah.
Well, in his Mountain Memories.
Oh, right.
They're both, nature books, and then there's another new one that just came out recently with a gentleman over in Virginia, and it's a pure nature book. So that's what I like about mine, is it's about all of West Virginia.
Right.
And being, you know, my profession is tourism photography. Even though nature photography is my love, my profession is tourism photography. And, you know, that's what I do. That's what I know. I've seen, you know, all this. I see the festivals and you know, the different activities going on. I'm there. So.
Well, the book is just, I mean, it's fresh off from the printer, right?
Sure is.
So
it's just a few more weeks, actually. It's before it actually gets on the newsstands. It'll be or the bookstores. It'll be a few more weeks.
And you're also going to be presenting, I think, at the West Virginia Book Festival this year.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when my schedule is, but I will be there to you know, talk about the other books, or going to talk about all of them. But I'll be there signing the other books and answering any questions anybody would have.
Well, there's this shot here with the sort of tunnel scene. Could you how did you get this picture exactly?
Well, this is Sharp's Tunnel, which, you know, it's always hard to get photos of tunnels and really show something that's interesting, other than somebody riding a bike or a horse or hiking out of a tunnel, and that's an interesting shot. Or you can use a silhouette of people standing on the edge of the tunnel with the view out the background.
Them, yeah.
But I've done that. So here again, I was doing some work for the Pocahontas County CVB, and Gail Price is sitting back there in the shadows. You can't see her. She's behind a rock ledge holding a slave flash. And as the bikers, and then I have a slave flash on my camera, or a flash on my camera, and have a very wide angle lens. I'm actually pretty close to these people. The lens is just very wide. And so when I fire off my flash, her flash goes off, and it gives us a lighting, almost like we're painting light back there. Now, if I would have had other flashes on back in the tunnel, we could have seen farther back in the tunnel also. But this is the perspective we wanted. It just gives you a great perspective of, it's a rock cut tunnel. It's not just a tunnel that's been concrete. It's a rock cut. This image is taken at the Greenbrier Valley Theater in Lewisburg, and, you know, what can you say? The lobby is just absolutely spectacular.
They've redone this whole building.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, and it's just spectacular lobby. I like this perspective. This is at Harper's Ferry, and we have lots of photos at Harper's Ferry for reenactments from Maryland Heights. But what I like about this photo is it's just a different view. I'm shooting through the store windows, showing some of the goods, showing the street. You know,
it looks almost like it could be period if it were.
That's what I was trying to do.
From the 1800s.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, is try to get it to look as much period as I could. And so I was real happy with that. Well, this is a great ghost shot. Through tourism, we needed some shots of ghosts for ghost tours that they do at the state. So this is my wife. She's always a good model and a good sport for me. And so the local cemetery, I live out near Tornado, and so we went to this cemetery up near Tornado, and we're up in the middle of this cemetery at night. And I have a friend with me and my wife. We have this lantern. I have smoke bombs because I have no electricity to use my fog machine, so I'm using smoke bombs. I have 3 or 4 flashes going off with filters on them. And this guy drives up on an ATV with he's armed.
Oh, he's armed, okay.
Because you can imagine what they're thinking. The people around there are thinking, what is going on over in that cemetery? They're seeing flashes of lights and smoke, and they're probably thinking some kind of satanic cult.
But you got out alive.
Oh yeah, we got out alive. And actually, the guy who was with me, he knew the fellow, so it wasn't any problem. But you know, you have to do what you have to do to get your shot. This is the view everyone sees from Hawk's Nest, but you never get tired of it, and catching it on a really clear day like this is pretty rare. So I just love to go up there. Every time I go by, I photograph it, even though I have hundreds of shots of it. This is on the Highland Scenic Highway, and here again it was like this just last week. Beautiful fall color, and you have beautiful views everywhere. And I did get out of the car for this one and walk a few feet. So.
Oh, okay. A little effort.
And this is a photo of the honeybee, and it's the state insect. And they needed a photo for the tourism did for a brochure we were doing on our state symbols. And I thought I was going to go to a honeybee farm, you know, and get all this group of honeybees. But it just so happened one day I went up to Coonskin Park and was sitting there eating a sandwich, and all these honeybees were flying around on the clover around me. So I put on a 300 millimeter lens with a 2x converter, which gave me a 600 millimeter lens, and I followed this honeybee around.
Oh, it's a great shot.
And I got one shot. Is basically all I got was one shot.
Much better than a clump of bees on
Yes, and it looks much better, and it really shows the honeybee. So, you know, it's just a stroke of luck again. And this shot is of the Presbyterian Church in Huttonsville, and it was built by, I'm not sure if I'll get his first name right, Lemuel Chenoweth,
right,
who built the covered bridge at Philippi, and he also built this church.
A great architect in West Virginia.
It's a beautiful church, very, very beautiful. And this is of a mail pouch barn out in Jackson County. Of course, it's a wonderful farm scene, but I also have taken an interest in mail pouch barns. I decided to go on a quest to photograph every mail pouch barn standing in West Virginia. And
probably a few.
Yes, there is. There's about 141, and all the signs also on side of buildings.
Right.
So I went down to the mail pouch headquarters in Wheeling and went through their old records so I could find out where Harley Warwick and Zimmerman had went, and I would just use the map and travel to these places, and if sometimes there was a barn there, sometimes there wasn't, and sometimes the directions were really hard to find, and but I've been surprised. I found some barns that were not on the records. One up in Webster County that was not in any record at all.
So they were freelancing their work, maybe?
Well, I think just bad record keeping, you know, or not bad record keeping. It's just, you know, that time they just didn't keep the records, maybe, or maybe I didn't get all the records. It could have been.
Right. Well, that's an amazing shot of waterfall here.
Yeah. Now this is at Valley Falls on the Tigert Valley River. It's on the Marion and Taylor County border. It's a state park. And here again, this is just stroke of luck. I was down there going to photograph the falls, and a couple kayakers were playing around there, and very happy to accommodate me, you know, get wherever I wanted them to go. They'd come out and walk up and try it again. This was when I found the barn in Webster County. I was driving on the back roads. Here again, some back road. I'm not even real sure what back road I was on. But this is called Mollahan Mill on the north fork or left fork of the Holly River. Maybe it's the left fork of the Holly River. I had no idea this mill even existed.
I've never heard of it, yeah.
Let alone being in such a beautiful location. And it has a historical marker there. It was
so a lot of this stuff is not only do you get the shots by chance, but you find the thing to shoot by chance.
Just great things, you know. You just wander around and you'd be surprised the things you find.
Well, we're running out of time, but you've got so many wonderful photographs. We can do this over again sometime, maybe.
Yeah, no problem.
I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me here.